What is going on, YouTube? This is Jam back with another video, here to talk to you guys today about Monster Hunter Rise, which is currently available as a demo on the Nintendo Switch, and to compare and contrast it to my only other Monster Hunter experience being Monster Hunter World. I gotta say, as a whole, I love the idea of what Monster Hunter is. And for those not really familiar with the series, or those who have tried it but didn't really grasp it, I would implore you to try again, or try it for the first time, because it is a very different style of game. In both games, really just in the Monster Hunter series as a whole, you are obviously hunting monsters, but it's not that simple. While you do have a plethora of weapons and armor types that you can craft and grind to build up to get a really cool looking character, there's also a litany of tactics that you have to use. You have to manage your stamina, you have to manage your health, you have to sharpen your weapon, you have to eat to get your stamina up as it starts to go down in battle. And then there's a slew of items that you change on the fly, such as traps and snares and different kinds of poisons or salves or whatever you put on your weapon to change the battle, because these monsters are hard. It's not like you just walk over and spam attack, kind of like God of War style or Diablo 3 style. These are very long battles. Most instances, they give you about an hour or so to beat a monster, and I'm sure there are pros that can beat it in 2 or 3 minutes, but it usually takes you a good 20 or 30 minutes to kind of wrangle an enemy down. There are multiple stages. They'll run away to hide and recover. They pass out. You can cut off different parts of their body, which alter the battle as a whole. Like, obviously, if they don't have that part of the body, they can't attack you with it anymore. It also opens up additional weak points for you to attack and stuff like that. And it's really a lot of fun, but it's incredibly tactical. And if you're not really ready to invest in that, I could understand that it probably scares some people away. When you hold down, it depends on the controller, but whatever. If you're using the Switch, you hold down L button. It brings up this radial that goes left and right and up and down with a litany of things. There are 4 separate hotbars that each in turn can hold, I believe, 8 or 9 different items in a radial style. And you're not going to use every single one of them, but you're going to use a lot of them. So you have to have your potions ready. You have to have this. It adds up very quickly. And I could see where some people are turned off by that, because it's not really that user-friendly in a sense. And it's too much to really explain in a tutorial setting. You just kind of got to go. And you're going to just kind of trial and kind of learn and read online and whatever. Where Monster Hunter World really shone, in my opinion, was how beautiful it was. And the world was massive. There were very distinct continents that you explored that had a lot to see and do. Lots of twisting patterns and caverns and alternate ways to get to a destination. Lots of other monsters on top of the big bad that you were hunting, with lots of materials you can gather along the way. A lot of environmental tools you can use to your advantage, whether it be rock slides or lightning bugs that you'd shoot and they'd explode, or poison flowers. There are a lot of things that if you fought in particular areas, you could use the environment to your advantage to get some pretty good damage in. And you're going to need a lot, because like I said, these monsters are no joke. The problem with Monster Hunter World, in my opinion, was that it was almost too big. And chasing down an enemy who got away, which is part of the adventure. You fight them and they run away and you have to chase after them. Because of how twisting and turning and convoluted some of the maps were, it was very difficult sometimes to track somebody down. And a lot of times you wasted too much time getting lost in the map because there were so many. It wasn't very intuitive. It wasn't like a flat plane, like, okay, the monster's north, go north. Sometimes to go north, you had to find a little hallway that was like east that, went to the west and then north, or something like that. It was not very intuitive on how to navigate the map. And as a result, you waste a lot of time running, chasing something that you really just want to fight. And it got kind of hard to deal with. The other big problem with Monster Hunter World, and then I'll jump over to Rise, the bigger problem I had was the matchmaking. These enemies are tough, and again, I'm sure if you're a pro player, you could probably kill every single one on your own. But the game is clearly designed to have friends. As a matter of fact, if you're not playing with anybody, you are automatically assigned an NPC Palico, which is like a little cat who helps you out, that you can equip, that fights with you. Now, obviously, it's not a great substitute for another human player, but it does help They can revive you. They can give you potions. They can kind of tank a little bit while you have to retreat to recover. They also can do decent damage. Not the best, but decent damage. And they're cute. They're fun to have around, and they're like your fighting buddy. When you join in a party, they leave. So just to give you an idea that this was designed for other human players to join. The problem is how matchmaking worked is it wasn't like a server-based thing. You were put into an instance with anywhere from 10 to 15 other players, and that was your whole world. If you put a job out on the bulletin board and said, hey, I need help hunting down this monster, it was only people in that instance who could see it. And it was very hard to coordinate these kind of pickup groups. Now, if you have a friend, obviously that problem goes away. Unfortunately, none of my friends took to this game like I did, so I was thrown to the wolves, essentially, and I had to do all this stuff on my own. And I got to the part that I couldn't find a group. I would constantly be jumping from server to server to server, trying to join groups that are already in progress. The matchmaking it seemed to be an afterthought, which is a huge disappointment. It would have been so much better if it was a global system and you got rid of this whole town hub idea. And you could just say, hey, I need help fighting this monster. You match 2 people, you go. That would have been phenomenally easier. For whatever reason, they chose not to take that approach. And I ultimately started to die too many times on harder enemies, and I just kind of put it away. So I kind of lost the excitement of it. It wasn't fun. It was a chore getting together all the crafting materials, going out to fight, knowing I was going to die, and not having any help, and I put the game aside. Now enter Monster Hunter Rise. Now, there are a lot of other Monster Hunter games. They're on 3DS, and they're a very popular platform. And I saw another Monster Hunter game, and I'm like, okay, here we go again. Just like before, it's going to look pretty, it's going to be fun, and I'm going to hit a brick wall because I'm not going to be able to find friends. It's almost like they thought of me or they learned their lesson. I don't know. With Monster Hunter Rise, it's different. Now, it is going to be exclusive as of right now on the Nintendo Switch. So that means if you are trying to play with a friend on the Nintendo Switch, you're going to have to put up with all that crap with the cell phone application and with trying to talk to each other and matchmake. And Nintendo Switch is notoriously horrible for any sort of online matchmaking gameplay. But you don't need that. And that's why I like Monster Hunter Rise, and that's why I'm incredibly excited to dive back into this franchise and continue. Because they've done a few key things. Number one, the world is much more simple. Yes, there are still different, I don't want to say biomes, but the maps are still a very large size. However, when you start the game, it shows you on the map who you're trying to hunt. The monster you want is right here. It's very easy to find them. There's a giant arrow that's like, go this way. This is where the monster is. And I like that. I don't necessarily need the idea of Monster Hunter World of walking around and trying to collect droppings or tracks or, damaged branches as they kind of carve through to find an enemy. Just point me in the right direction. I don't need to spend time walking around doing that because it's not fun. So they got rid of that. It's faster in that sense of engagement. And since the map is more flat and more accessible, it is incredibly easy to just go straight to the enemy. And when they fight you and they get weak and run away, as I mentioned before, they still do that. There are phases to these fights. You just follow them. You don't have to worry about navigating through this incredibly convoluted map, getting lost in twists and turns, and, you got to climb this. And no, none of that. You're just going to walk right to the guy, and you're going to pick up the fight, which I love. Now, on top of that, they give you 2 companions to start with, one of which is a rideable mount, which is incredibly cool in of itself. So you're going to be able to ride around in style. It's going to be able to allow you to just get to places very quickly. However, that mount does double as an ally. You still have your friendly Palico who is there as well. So you are now a 3-person fighting squad, which makes it a lot more fun. And I can see where you're going to be able to take on bigger challenges because although it is AI, you're going to allow them to kind of tank for you as necessary, or you're going to allow them to, help you fight these enemies because they're, like I said, they are pretty difficult. So I like that. I feel like they really fixed that system because I thought that really was the difficulty. Now, I can't speak to the matchmaking too much on the beta. It seems like they really just want you to play by yourself. They pick you in 3 or 4 distinct areas, And you pick a character that's already pretty much kitted out with pretty much every possible doodad and piece of gear you could possibly need, and they send you off on your merry way. And it just, obviously is a demo that's just to give you a taste of what to expect. I'm sure when you start, you're not going to have the best gear, of course. That's part of the fun, is killing an enemy and getting a rare material, taking it back and crafting it and building up this really cool sword or upgrading a bow or whatever and progressing that way and fighting enemies faster. And that's just the RPG mechanics, really, of any game. But I feel like that's always been a charm of this series. In terms of performance, it's not the best. I think we were all spoiled. I know I was playing Monster Hunter World on a PlayStation 4 Pro, ultimately on the PlayStation 5. You're going to get beautiful HDR textures. You're going to get 60 frames a second. It's going to look and feel absolutely phenomenal. And some of the lighting effects in that game are really world class. Unfortunately, you and I both know the Nintendo Switch cannot even come close to those specifications. This game will get you about 30 frames a second. It does stutter occasionally. It definitely suffers from some draw distance problems. It looks a lot flatter because it's only in 1080, not in 4K. But I think, for me, the way that I enjoy Monster Hunter, the way I want to enjoy Monster Hunter, I think I'm willing to sacrifice the eye candy in terms of functionality. So I think for me, Monster Hunter Rise is a better choice. It's a game that when it comes out, I'm absolutely going to pick up, and I'm absolutely going to enjoy and play and just progress on my own, just like I did on Monster Hunter World, but at least with some AI companions. That extra AI companion, I think, is going to make a significant difference in the battles. And I think it's going to make the game a little more fun to play as a solo player. And really, because it's not going to be such a chore to set up. I think back to World of Warcraft. As you guys know, I'm a recovering survivor, a big addict for years on World of Warcraft. And when you were going into a raid, it was a job. You had to go and get all your buffs together and get all your gear and get all your... It was like a 20 or 30 minute setup to get into the action before you even had a chance of fighting the enemy. And Monster Hunter World really suffered from that as well. And I think because of the complexity of that game, a lot of that preparation was lost, because if you died, you lost your stuff and you had to start over. As where I feel like with Monster Hunter Rise, a little more ease of access, obviously being on a Switch, designed more for a portable space, more for like a pick up and go kind of thing. I feel like that's going to be more my speed, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's definitely a step up from the old Monster Hunter games on the older handhelds that were just very basic, like no draw distance, very kind of boring looking. I think Monster Hunter Rise will be a nice in between like what over the top Monster Hunter World was trying to be, and that mobile space. I think it's gonna meet a happy medium. So I'm giving this game a major thumbs up, a big endorsement from me from what I've seen. Obviously, when the game comes out, which I believe is scheduled next month, Monster Hunter Rise, let's see, March 26th. So March 26th is when it comes out. I think they offer some sort of bundle that includes some amiibos or something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what version we end up landing on between my wife and I. But I will be back at some point around then to show you what I got, talk a little bit more about it, and enjoy the game solo. Now, obviously, if anybody is out there watching this who still plays Monster Hunter World and has a PlayStation and wants to help me defeat some of the endgame, well, to me, endgame enemies, I will definitely love to get back into it. I just remember the frustration that I had before. So with that, I'm going to close out this video. Leave some comments below. Let me know your thoughts on the Monster Hunter franchise as a whole. Did you get to try out the Monster Hunter Rise playable demo, which is still available now through, I believe, the end of January, so there's still some time. Did you get to play it? What did you think about it? Leave some comments below, and look forward to reading them. That's all I got for today. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.